What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm here with some book reviews. Let's get it.
Favorite reader, that's who you are. Traveling near, traveling far. Through every chapter, you're the star. Favorite reader, that's who you are.
Got 5 book reviews. 5. Okay. Let's just jump into it. First, we're going to start with Misunderstood by Allen Iverson. It's his memoir. This is a basketball book. This is a sports memoir. This goes over his career trajectory. It goes over Allen Iverson's career and love for sports in general, what it meant to him, starting with football, then football, then basketball, how much his mom had an impact on his life and trajectory. If you're looking for some memoirs, kind of like they mention their career and their like professional success, but then they're more focused on their personal life and personal struggles and development and things like that. This is his career. Okay, we're talking about what made him be the player that he is. We're talking about behind the scenes insights and thoughts about certain games, certain teams he was on, decisions that he had to make in his career. This is not drama heavy. Like, he has issues with his wife. They got divorced, then they got back together. They had a whole bunch of stuff going on, and it was just glossed over in here because that's not what this is about. You get to see his kids briefly, but really everything is like, this is about his career progression. It's about the man and the making of that man, coming up, some of the people that he kind of looked up to and then got to play with, things that he had to struggle with. You did get a good sense of his family, like, his mama, his daddy, his stepdaddy, siblings, all of that. But really, if you're interested in knowing why he didn't go to practice, if you're interested to know why did you have beef with your coaches like that, if you're interested to know why he left his team and went to the NBA, that's what this is about. Good book. I actually really enjoyed it. Really did. And to be honest, I know who AI is. Obviously, I know who Allen Iverson is. He changed the game. He was short, quick. He was fiery. He made me, I'm short. So I was like, he's short doing all this in the NBA. I can do this. He ain't really short, but he NBA short. And he had his own style. He was determined to show up as himself authentically. I respect it. Good book. This is one of my husband's favorite athletes. I don't think like his all-time favorite, but he's in like his top whatever. I can't even remember. Top something. And so everything I was reading about this, he already knew. I was like, did you know AI such and such and such? Yeah, I did. Then he gave me more information that I didn't even know. Did you know that he did XYZ in the game? He's like, yeah, that was the same game that XYZ happened. And he not even like the biggest sports fan, but when AI was out, he was younger, so had like more time to commit and dedicate to it. But yeah, anyways, very, very good book. Very good book. That's the first one. Okay, I actually read that. I checked it out from the library and it was so good, I wanted to get a copy for myself. Okay, I'm actually going to review these in the order that I read them. So the next one is Right by My Side by David Haynes. This book is a coming-of-age story that takes place in the 1980s and 90s. And okay, let me back up. The main character's name is Marshall. He's a young boy coming of age, okay? He's dealing with a lot, and then his parents has problems, okay? Let me make sure that's not a spoiler. His mama left him. It's not a spoiler. It happens really early on. His mom up and left him. In this book, the whole time, I could personally relate. But the whole time, I was sitting here thinking about like when parents have problems like his mom and dad. It was two major things I was thinking about in this book. One, when parents have problems, people always say like they almost forget, especially in the 80s and 90s, they'll forget that the child is also affected. So it'll be like, oh, it has nothing to do with you. It's between your parents. Like, whole time the child is affected, you're gone. What do you mean? Like, you can say it's not my fault all day. You can say it is my fault. You're literally gone. What do you mean? Like, is grown, like they grown and they doing this XYZ, and I don't understand. Like, I'm literally having to go through this as a child, teenager. And it's just so annoying because I feel like during this time, I think this is actually really accurate that there wasn't an admission or recognition that children probably needed their own form of help or therapy or like assistance getting through that, some kind of reckoning to make sense of what's going on around them, because they act like kids were so resilient they never experienced trauma when they were literally in a traumatic situation. So that's what that made me think of. The second thing it made me think of is, you know, the saying like, tell me who you love and I'll tell you who you are. That's what this made me think of when I was thinking about Marshall and Marshall's mom and dad. I told y'all I could personally relate to this book personally, very, very personally. And I also told y'all that my sister watched, my little sister, not my big sister, my little sister watches these videos and she'll know what I mean. A lot of times that's true. His parents, his daddy was, this book hit home for me. Listen, his dad, he got around. I told y'all his mama left and his dad was like, look, I gotta do what I gotta do. And it was, again, a child is like having a residual impact from it. But then like the decisions that was made between his two parents was kind of just like, y'all one and the same. Oh, yeah. But Marshall is navigating that. So his home life, he's navigating school, he's navigating his friends who also have their own very, very important, serious issues going on at home. And he's navigating like political turmoil, riots and protesting and trying to like make a stand for something, at the same time being true to himself and trying to keep him and his friends safe and trying to grow up faster than he should at home, you know, trying to like step up to fulfill a role that he shouldn't have to fill as a child, dealing with his dad, making sense of what's going on around him, and also him dealing with the emotions and feelings that he has towards his mom and his dad. So you do get to see both sides in this, and I really did appreciate it. Yeah. Woo. Y'all ain't hear nothing. Okay, next. In order. Okay. This has been on my TBR for years. I say this all the time. It feels good to read a book that you've been saying you're going to read for years. It's been on my list for years. That is 100 Years of Solitude. For years, okay? This book takes place, first of all, you probably already know what it is. Very well-known, referenced book. It takes place in a magical, mythical town of Makanda in Colombia. And it follows the Buendia. Am I saying that? It follows the Buendia family. Their family is a mess. It follows how the mythical town was founded. It follows the rise of it, the entire progression of it. It follows the Buendia family over generations. This family, I feel like it's a cautionary tale to not repeat the sins of your father, to not keep making the same mistakes over and over, to not be so obsessed with something that you're forfeiting something else in pursuit of this other thing that doesn't matter as much as the other thing that you're giving up. Like, open your eyes. It's a cautionary tale to not lust after people you shouldn't be lusting after. I don't want to see. Yeah, check your trigger warnings. It's a cautionary tale to let children be children and not force them to be adults before it's their time to be adults. It's a cautionary tale. Listen to wise counsel. I mean, man, like, there was a one part of this book where I thought to myself, like, this kind of dry, like a tiny little part. And then as soon as I said that, like, the next paragraph was just written so well. I was like, never mind, never mind. It's written so well. And it's just, I've talked to like 3 people about this book since I read it. I kid you not. Before I read this book, I only heard positive reviews. I talked to 3 people after I read it, and all 3 of them said they did not like it. They said they did not like this book. They didn't like the magical realism aspect of it. They didn't like the subject matter because it is some triggering stuff in here. And one person said it was so boring, she just couldn't go through with it. I get that for them. So you might want to hear some other reviews before you just jump into reading it. But for me, as for me and myself in this room, this was good. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Like, thoroughly. Now, the other person one person said that it was so boring she DNF'd it. She told me that they had a Netflix series and she enjoyed that. I watched one episode and I did not like the Netflix series. I thought that was boring. And I thought, like, every little thing in this book that I didn't really want to think about or care about was like amplified in the Netflix series. So I don't know. Like, y'all let me know if you've read the book and watched the Netflix series, what you think. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, y'all. Yeah. And then I can imagine at the time that this came out, it probably really did like rock some people. Okay. The order that I read these. Next book, I got this from the Dollar Tree. Just as much as I like reading a book that's been on my shelves for years, I like reading books that I pick up from the Dollar Tree because I almost never find good books at the Dollar Tree. I live by the worst Dollar Tree ever. But this time, they had one book that looked like it was worth picking up, and I did. That is Time's Undoing by Cheryl A. Head. Shout out to the Dollar Tree this one time. But anyways, this book is a historical fiction book. It has dual timelines, one taking place in the 1920s and the other taking place in like 2019. So you have part mystery, part thriller, it wasn't marketed as a YA book, but that's kind of how it read to me. And then, historical fiction, like I said. But you have the 1920s timeline. The main character's name is Robert Lee, and he's a black man who's married to a woman and have kids, and they live in the 1920s. They moved from Florida to Alabama, Birmingham. Then you have in 2019 the main character. Megan lives in Detroit, and she is a reporter. She is a reporter who reports on BLM, Black Lives Matter type stuff, police brutality type stuff. And she decides that for her next article or news story, she's going to literally try to uncover the truth about the life of her great-grandfather, who we find out to be is the person who is narrating the other dual timeline. It's very interesting. I'm trying to be fair with my assessment. It's very interesting But it had a couple things about it I didn't like. So let me talk about what I did like. I did like the dual timelines. I feel like they worked together, especially how they kind of came to a head. That was pretty interesting. I like the fact that you got to hear like her uncover like the how she wanted to uncover the truth about the life of her great grandfather because she only ever heard about his tragic death. And she got to like bring satisfaction and some sense of closure to her family, especially her grandma, who didn't know what happened to her daddy really at the end. So it was good to kind of see that. It was good to see how like she was going about trying to get her story. I think that was interesting. The plot was good. On the other hand, I didn't like the pacing of this at all. The pacing seemed so off to me. Like it just seemed off. I don't know. Some things are so drawn out. Some things happen within a matter of a couple like paragraphs that could have been longer. And then when you get to like this resolution, it seemed rushed. Stuff like that. Then again, it had like this, it was written like it was YA, but it wasn't marketed or like said to be a YA book. Some of her decision making, some of the ways some things were framed were interesting. Another thing, the main character, Megan, is supposed to be a reporter, but she seems like, instead of being like a professional reporter, she comes across as like a middle school or high school person doing a story for their school paper. That's kind of the way it comes off. She wasn't making good decisions. Like she didn't seem to be seasoned, and kind of the way she was moving, it just wasn't realistic to think she was a professional reporter. Another thing I didn't like. I know it sounds like I didn't like this book. It was okay. It was like middle of the road for me, but it did have a couple things I wanted to point out. But the last thing that I didn't like some of the emphasis that was placed on some of the side characters. Sometimes I felt like that instead of complimenting the main story, it almost overshadowed it to a point that was like, I mean, you could have just left that out. Or like, what was the reason for us going down this side quest? That's me. But it was interesting. And it was $1. I'm not mad at 125. I ain't mad at 125, okay? Yeah. I'm not mad. That's that. Last book. Okay. This book, I was excited to read. I got it last year, actually. And yeah, I got it last year, actually. I actually picked this up after I read the Poppy War trilogy by R.F. Kuang. That is The Last Boat Out of Shanghai. The Epic Story of the Chinese Who Fled Mao's Revolution by Helena Zia. This was an interesting book. Let me preface this by saying you might be bored with it if you're looking for like a plot or a narrative or like really for a story to kind of carry you through it, because it's dry in that area. But what keeps it going for me and what kept me very interesting is how really interesting it was. It's like 4 personal accounts of real people who them and their families fled Mao's reign. They fled China. It talked about the political relations between Japan and China, which is always super interesting to me. It talked about what Mao's reign meant for like the little people. Like, yes, we understand it on a big global scale, but what did it look like for the everyday person, her and her sister? Like, what did it look like for the working man and his 2 young kids? You know what I mean? And just how hectic it was and unexpected. Like, they thought, yes, quick 2, 3, 4 years, we'll be back. No, not really. So, yes, it's a personal account of, it follows 4 different stories or people or groups, but it's dense and it's not written like, I talked about how I felt about, like some historical books are written and they have like some narrative to go along with it to kind of keep it going. Some story you're following or like some overall thing. This, it's a book, but it reads like how you read a textbook to me, I like reading textbooks too, so I can't. You might not like it, and yes, it. I don't know. Like it's not as dense as a textbook, but that's the same excitement you might get from reading a textbook of something interesting is what you would get out of this. To me, that's what I think. I enjoyed it, but I know for a fact this is one of the ones that a lot of people might be like, this is boring outside of like the main like idea of it. But to me, I was just so interested because I'm just like, it's just so everything I know about Mao and China and Japan relations, obviously I know secondhand. But I just feel like I don't know enough about it. So every time I get more information, it's like fascinating to me. So I can see how people might think that this is a boring book, but I was just so fascinated by like the historical context and relations and like implications of it. I liked it. So that's that. The Last Boat Out of Shanghai. Be prepared if you're going to read it. It's going to take you on a ride. Let me see. It feels longer than it is to me. Hold on. Get through the references. See how long this really is. Acknowledgements. Hold on. Because now it seemed longer than this, but I guess not. 430 pages. Okay. But anyways, I enjoyed that. But that's it. Let me give y'all a final view before I get up out of here. Before I go, have y'all read any of these? Also, if you made it this far, what is a show or a movie that did not live up to your expectations, but you really did enjoy the book? Let me know. But yeah, that's it, y'all. Thank y'all for joining me, sticking it out to the end, and I'm going to see y'all on the next one.
Pages turning soft as silk, stories flowing like warm milk. A journey starts with every line, worlds unfolding in your mind. Bookmarks falling where dreams collide. Every cover's got a tale inside. Favorite reader, that's who you are. Traveling near, traveling far. Through every chapter